All right, welcome to part 3 in our Byzantine portrait tutorial. Um, we left off where you had selected your custom shape tool, and then I believe you created this gold color. So now we're going to create a shape. However, I messed up a little bit. So one of the things I want to go back and do, and I want you to fix this as well, is go to your layers. And before, I think I'd asked you to copy this layer mask and move it. But the way I did it, it wasn't copying it. So it basically just moved it out of order. So yours probably looks like mine. So what I want you to do is just move this layer back here to under the ring. That's where it should be. So what I want you to do now is instead of copying it, we're going to do something a little different because we did ours a little bit different. You're going to click on your radial layer like that. You're going to create a new layer mask, which is this icon down here with the square and the circle in it. So click on that. Then you're going to go to your brush tool again, right here, brush, and then I want you to change the brush size a little bit. So I think I had it around 3,500 last time. I'm going to change it to 4,500 to make it a little bit bigger, the selection, so it's easier just to type there. And then just click, kind of center it with your square, and then click. And I know it looks really funky right now. Then you're going to hit Control I to invert it. So it just kind of softened it a little bit, and it also kept the rays. You're going to do the same thing. You're going to click on your sparkles layer right here. You're going to add a layer mask, and then you don't have to select the brush because you still have it selected. Do the same thing. Center the square and the circle, and then click on it, and it looks funky, I know, and then hit Control Invert. There. So we have a bit more of an orb than we did before. Okay, sorry if that's a little confusing. If you need help, just let me know. Go ahead and just click on your move tool so you don't have that big brush. So this is what your layers should look like. All right, so back to the wider radial. So click on that, and before I had asked you to select a custom shape tool. So go back over here to your 3 dots, and then it should be towards the bottom, custom shape. Make sure shape is selected. You see it, the shape tool is here in the tool option bar, so shapes, and then we did the fill. So you click on the fill, and then you go over here to this icon, which is the color picker, and then we had picked that color. We had typed in that color. So the color, and this is a repeat, FBCF04, and then hit OK. Then you're going to go up to the tool option bar where you have the custom shape tool selected, and you're going to go over to your right, and you should have an arrow highlighted or some symbol over here. It should be the arrow. If it's a different symbol, it's okay. So click on that arrow, and then you're going to go over to this gear to the right and click on that, and you want large list selected or checked, and click again, and then make sure symbols is highlighted. And it's going to ask you replace current shape with shapes from symbols. Hit OK. Um, and so as you scroll through, you should have a symbol called registration target 2. So click on it, and then what you're going to do is you're going to go move your crosshair to the center of your orb, and you're going to just pull out from the center, and it's going to create this shape, and just pull all the way to the edge like that. Release, and then hit Control H, and then Control H again, and that gets rid of the pathways. Now you're going to go up to Filter, Blur, and select Gaussian Blur. And it's going to ask you, it's going to say this shape layer must be rasterized or converted to a smart object before proceeding. If rasterized, it will no longer be edible. So we are going to convert ours to a smart object. So click on that, and it'll bring up the Gaussian blur filter. And you want to blur it about, maybe, I did mine about 30 pixels. Then you're going to go to the blending mode, click on the arrow next to normal, and select soft light. Ooh, so we have some more rays, and it looks a little bit more refined. Then you're going to go over to your opacity in your layer palette, and you're going to move it down between 30 and 50%, whatever you think looks good. I might do mine 40. Like, I don't want to make it so the rays completely disappear. That looks good. All right. Now we're going to copy this layer mask to the wider radial. So use this one where we had made one for sparkles. So click on that layer, and then hit Control. We'll make sure that's highlighted. So click on it, the actual layer mask, so it's highlighted with the little white box. Hit Control Alt, and you should be able to move that and drop it onto the wider radial. And see the little blue, it's kind of telling you where it's going. Boom, there. Perfect. So now we're going to move on, and we're going to make another part of your orb, which is a star. So you're going to create a new layer. So go ahead and click on the wider radial so that the layers don't get out of order. So click on that. Click on your new layer palette or icon, and then you're going to name this layer Star. You're going to select another tool from your toolbox called the polygonal tool. So it should be located under your custom shape tool. So just scroll down and find it. It should be this one, polygon tool. And then make sure it's highlighted up here in the tool option menu bar. You're going to click on this color right here, this fill, and then it shows you the recently used colors. So what you're going to do is select the brightest yellow. Then you're going to go over here towards the right and click on this gear. So click on it and then make sure these are checked. You want to make sure star is checked indent sides should be at 90%. And then go over here to sides and make sure 4 is in there. You're going to bring your cursor into the center of your composition and then click and then kind of drag and pull it, and then just try to get it vertical as straight as you can like that. Then release. Hit Control H to hide the pathway. You have to do it twice. You're going to go up to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. It's going to come up with that same question. So we do want to convert this shape to a smart object. And then it's going to bring up the Gaussian Blur. And then again, I blurred mine to about 25, 30 pixels. And again, yours can be a little bit different than mine. I mean, blur it some, but it doesn't have to be exactly like mine. And then hit OK. You want to go over here to your layer palette and go over to the opacity and reduce the opacity and maybe make it about 80%, or between 60 and 80. So mine's about 68. Again, you can kind of fool with it a little bit. All right, so we have created your celestial orb. So what we're going to do next is we're going to combine all these different things that we've made and group them. So what I want you to do next is go to your layer palette and scroll down, and you're going to click on the ring layer. And then what I want you to do is hold down the Shift key and then just keep clicking these other layers. So radial, sparkle, the wider radial with all the other filters, and your star. And then you're going to group them because that's a lot to look at. So we're going to hit Control G, and now they're all in a little group. So we're going to rename this one Aura. All right, so we've done pretty much the hard part. We've created this really beautiful sort of aura, celestial orb, halo, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to stop here. In the next segment, we are going to be working with the figure and trying to make your figure look a little bit more iridescent, make the skin look a little bit more glowy, so that it looks a little bit more supernatural. Okay, so stay tuned for part 4. Again, make sure you save your work. So if you've been saving, just go to File and hit Save, and you should be good. Just remember where you're saving it, because again, if you lose it, you have to start over.